Good morning and welcome to Family Jewels. I am Colton Bartell.
And I'm Audie Bartell.
And we are both graduate gemologists here at Suzanne's Custom Jewelers. And this week we are continuing our discussion on the topic of do you know what you're buying? Last week we talked about diamond coated CZs.
That almost sounds like a question I get asked whenever we go in the grocery store. Do you know what you're buying? You know what we're getting?
No. And then, so just to kind of tag on with what we talked about last week, this was actually something that I just ran across this morning that GIA has recently released. And I think this has been fairly new development, and they've only seen a couple of these stones, so we don't know how regular this is yet, but we are now hearing about natural diamond coated with CVD diamond to improve color and size of the stone.
How would they improve color?
So how this is working, this is something I actually just read this morning.
You're just going to wait and tell me now?
Yeah, because I just now thought about it too.
With the law.
But basically, the most recent stone that went into GIA, it was a natural diamond that they believed was around a ½ carat that was yellow and was coated in a bluish gray CVD diamond, adding about 10 points or 1/10 of a carat to it. So it made it a little over a 60-point diamond. And because of the two color combinations, it went from being a light yellow to a fancy green, gray green. So it's all diamond. The problem is that the surface part was basically all CVD diamond that was a different color to mask the unwanted color of the natural diamond and get a larger stone. So they increased the weight, changed the color, and basically passed it off as natural. And the only way they were actually able to figure this out is they had to do some very sophisticated scans of the stone with a new software that they're developing, I guess, because even their traditional way of separating lab-grown from natural that's still kind of in its development, it's getting much better, but they weren't even able to differentiate the stones then. So now they're seeing these thin layers of deposited diamond on top of natural diamond to increase weight and possibly enhance color. So something else to be watching out for. But if you want to know more about that whole thing with the synthetic diamond coating, check out last week's episode, which was the part 1 of Do You Know What You're Buying. This week, we're going to be talking about some of the other stones out there and some of the other treatments and things that may not be getting disclosed to the public, or maybe even some of the jewelers don't know is going on unless they know what to look for.
Yeah.
So first one, since we're on the topic of diamonds, we're going to talk about fracture filling and laser drilling. Both of these are pretty common practices. However, they are both ones that have to be disclosed at the sale, but for some reason, in a lot of cases, we've seen customers bring stuff in that didn't know that.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that they didn't buy it from, I'll say, a jeweler.
Yeah.
You know, and then I don't know about the part on the laser drilling. That's basically a permanent treatment. So GIA would actually grade that
as an inclusion.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's not near as harsh as there's a possibility that laser drilling improves the stone.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that GIA would improve the clarity grade because of that.
Possible, yeah.
if there's too many of them, then they start to dock the stone because of all the laser drilling. But it's kind of a fine line between whether that helps the stone or doesn't help the stone.
Right. But this is still considered a treatment to a natural stone, so therefore it's no longer technically a natural stone. It's been a treated natural stone. So normally the purpose of the laser drilling is to reach a darker inclusion within the stone, and basically they
Try to widen
acid wash it or bleach that inclusion to make it less obvious in the stone. And in doing so, it leaves a small, you can't even say pinhole, I mean, you maybe fit a hair
No,
in it. I mean, it's
No.
really, really, really tiny.
you can't even fit a hair.
Yeah, it's,
I'm
Little.
amazed that they can actually get acid in there.
I know, it's like, what do you got to put it in one little atom at a time? Or
I wonder if they don't do some kind of pressure or something to get it in there. But
there has to be something.
yeah.
But it is a treatment. It is detectable under magnification.
somewhat
and
somewhat
so-
difficult
Yeah.
if you're looking directly at the, what would you say? You'd be looking parallel to the hole.
Yeah.
You're looking, and you know, to see the hole on the surface, you'd have to use reflected light.
Right.
So if you're trying to look through the stone, basically, so you're going to be using like dark field illumination or whatever, you won't see the drill hole.
No.
So then the only way you
You
can
have
see
to see
the
the-
drill hole, you have to look sideways or
Yeah,
perpendicular
perpendicular.
to the
Yeah.
deal and look at through transmitted light. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Really, really
I've
fun.
seen it where it looks like a miniature version of maybe an oil field.
Yeah.
You got like
All these
I think
like
the most
straight holes that go down and stop at these inclusions, like little pockets.
Most I've seen is 7.
Yeah.
There's, I'm sure that's not the most that's ever been done, but whenever you get that number, normally there are going to be some, no matter what direction you look at, that you're going to be able to
See it.
see it.
Yeah.
But when you do, say they just do 1 or 2, and there's a possibility that they're doing it with face up.
Could be tough.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
sometimes they're not very deep.
No.
They
No.
may be only a millimeter or 2 deep
Yeah.
and take out an inclusion. Normally you can still see the inclusion, but it's a lot less visible because
Of the bleaching.
yeah.
Yeah. So that leads us to the next treatment that we're going to talk about with diamonds that is probably actually a little bit more common. This one is maybe a little bit more difficult to detect. You definitely have to know what you're looking for, and it's also not technically a permanent treatment because it can be removed, and that's what we call fracture filling. And so this is a process where there are surface reaching fractures in a stone where basically
It's kind of like it's not the same process, but it's a little bit like whenever you get a rock.
a rock chip in your windshield
And so
inject
what they
that
do is they come in
polymer
and
stuff.
yeah, they come in and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a substance that they're going to put into that fracture that's the same RI as what the
Material around it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they want to remove the air because that air is what's allowing you to see the fracture.
Right.
So some results are very good. Most of them don't totally eliminate the fracture,
Right.
but a lot of them are
It's a drastic improvement in most cases.
right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's maybe difficult to see because almost need to be, I guess it'd be a reflected light or
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
basically transmitting light through there, but we get
Usually a red to purple, even blue flash
yeah,
off of the filler
yeah,
whenever we're looking at it under magnification. Now, this can be difficult to detect because there are some fractures in diamonds that, if there's air trapped in there, can cause an iridescence that a lot of people may mistake as fracture filling. and vice versa. They may see some of this like purplish blue and just think that, okay, well, it's just air trapped in this fracture. It's not actually fracture filled, when in fact it is. So definitely has to be somebody that knows what they're looking at and what they're looking for.
And the reason that that's important is, let's say a lot of that fracture filling is not going to take torch heat.
No, it's not going to take much heat at all.
So if you go in there, well, I think it's gotten better. I mean, I know at one time, you didn't even put it in an ultrasonic.
Yeah, which I think still you probably wouldn't want to do that, just because you don't know how long ago the stone was fracture filled, so you don't know which stuff they were using.
Yeah,
and so that's where it can become a big problem, because if you do work on it, with diamonds, a lot of times, especially if a jeweler's using a torch, they're just going to leave the stone in place, and they can do the work on the piece of jewelry with the stone there and not have to worry about it, because the diamonds will take the heat. However, if they're fracture filled, they can cause that filling to burn or come out, or both. And then you actually have an even worse inclusion than what you started with, and it's actually probably not even going to look like the same stone.
It's
going to look bad.
I know at first, whenever they was first doing that, because I had a friend had a jewelry store that basically worked on one, and nobody told them that it was fracture filled, and he ends up with this horrible looking stone, and it was decent looking to begin with. And then back then, whenever they was first doing that, there were only a few places that were actually doing the fracture filling, and I don't think he ever got it redone. I don't think
that would
the
be
ones
tough.
Now I think it's a possibility that they can be redone, but back then, I need to ask Richard about that, because I don't remember exactly. I remember him calling and telling me what had happened, wherever, because it was fairly new. That would have been in the 80s somewhere. I don't remember now when they started doing that.
Yeah, but it's something you need to be aware of.
And if you have one, you definitely need to let the jeweler know if there's going to be some repair work, because I guarantee it's a big shock if...
Yeah.
We don't have as much of a problem with that, because
we know what to look for.
Well, that, and if we're, say, retipping or whatever,
we're doing with the laser.
We're not getting that stone hot anyways.
Yeah. So definitely something to look out for. It is something that is in the market and in the trade. It is required by law that both of those treatments are disclosed at the time of sale. So if you are buying a stone and it's got one of those treatments in it, like you said, if it needs repair work, definitely make sure, especially if you're not going back to the store that you bought it from, say you moved or something and you're finding a new jeweler, definitely let them know that one of those treatments has been done, because in most cases with the laser treatment, those are also fracture filled, because a lot of times they'll try and fill that drill hole as well to kind of conceal it. So definitely let them know so that there's no issues moving forward, and just kind of, watch out for that stuff whenever you're shopping for your diamonds. So the next one is probably the biggest hot topic in the last few years, especially in the colored stone market. And we experienced the consumers experienced a big problem with it a couple of years ago at Christmas, because of some box stores that were selling this stuff as natural. And it's still a pretty prevalent problem. Luckily, it's easy for us to spot, but if you don't know what you're looking for, it can be difficult. And this stone is what is being called glass-filled ruby. It's honestly glorified stained glass.
It's almost ruby-filled glass.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's essentially what it is like with the with the fracture filling, we're trying to get some sort of filling to match the RI of the stone. This, they're doing a highlight glass that is going to have a similar RI to ruby, and then they're actually mixing in ground up ruby or pieces of ruby that were either included to be sold as is, and so they used this glass to improve it, or they used chunks of ruby and threw it in with the glass and then cut it later. And these guys that are doing this are going so far as to actually even pass off some of it as being natural rough. They're even carving it to make it look natural.
Actually,
But-
wasn't there one time we could actually buy ruby rough or glass filled ruby rough?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just saw it at Tucson, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. But I mean, this stuff, it, like we said,
it's
it,
inexpensive.
and it became a
should
huge, it became a huge problem just a few years ago. It's still pretty prevalent out there, especially among those that don't really know what they're selling, or you don't know what you're buying, and nobody's saying one way or the other.
Or it's a little sketchy where you're buying it at.
Yeah. So the problem with it is you're basically buying glass that's got a little bit of ruby in it.
Some of it looks really nice.
Some of it does look really nice. If you know what you're looking for, they're fairly easy to detect. But there's a major difference between glass filled and natural ruby. And actually,
You're
labs...
You're talking price-wise.
Yeah. The labs don't even recognize glass-filled ruby as a stone. They basically say it's a composite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've seen it or heard of it being as much as like 80% glass and only 20% ruby. And some of it's not even natural ruby. Some of it's actually synthetic ruby mixed with lead glass. So none of it's natural.
Yeah.
And it can be a pretty big scam, especially among those that are not disclosing it, which is what happened a couple of years ago
I think it's
with some of
been
the
longer.
box stores.
It's been longer than that now.
Yeah. One of those instances we know got taken care of pretty quickly. The other one, not so much. But if you are in the market to buy ruby, this is definitely something to be aware of.
No.
So it's, like I said, it's really inexpensive stuff. We've seen it for as low as like
I think it's
$1 or 99 cents per carat.
I think it's less expensive than a synthetic ruby.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, we're almost talking like just
Faceted glass.
yeah. I think Swarovski crystal is more expensive than what this stuff is. But if you get caught in being told that it's natural and you pay natural prices for it,
Yeah.
it's not good.
No.
So definitely something to be aware of in the ruby market. And then since we're kind of in that little area there, the last one we're going to talk about today is lattice diffusion to color enhance. Mainly this is affecting, or probably the more common ones you're going to see is going to be different colors of sapphire.
And probably the most prevalent is probably orange sapphire.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that is, but
I don't know.
and I kind of wonder, I haven't seen it yet, but I kind of wonder if maybe, they would try to do that to make Podparacha.
I could see them doing that.
Yeah.
And Podparacha, for those of you who don't know, is actually an orangey pink, kind of a lotus flower colored sapphire.
Which I've
naturally,
never seen a lotus flower. Do they just come one color?
no,
So why
I
do they
don't
always
know.
say
That's
that?
well, because there are lotus flowers that have that orangey pink color to them, but it's not all of them. Yeah.
So is that Podparacha the best lotus color?
I guess.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh.
That's not my expertise.
Oh.
No.
I always wondered that. I mean, early on they explained that the Podparacha needed to be that lotus flower color, and I'm thinking, I'll bet they come in other colors besides that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I never really, and if if somebody has a little bit of orange or a little bit of pink, but it's not quite pink and it's not quite orange, it's Podparacha. But
that's
to me,
that's not the true.
no. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen the perfect Podparacha. I've seen some that I think are really good.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's, I don't know that GIA, I don't know that we ever saw what they considered.
We saw a few.
But I mean,
But
I don't know.
I don't know if it was
it
like the
perfect.
highest. Yeah, I don't know if it was like the perfect.
But you'll have a lot of people that deal in sapphires that have that.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a Podparacha.
Yeah. So the reason that we bring this up is because in attaining that color, you can actually command much, much higher prices for that stone, because pink sapphire is pretty prevalent. Orange sapphire is fairly common too, considering the stone. And neither one are, I guess, as sought after as what the Podparacha is. And the Podparacha is much more rare. And so in this lattice diffusion, what they're actually doing is enhancing one of those two colors to do that color combination to meet that
But
Podparacha,
That's
and it's all surface.
yeah. But it actually goes into the stone some, doesn't
It
it?
goes into the stone some.
'Cause
During the process, this actually burns the facets. So they're actually taking a faceted stone, they're doing the treatment, and they're basically within the surface of the stone. They heat the stone up just basically
Just
to its
before it
melting point, and allowing this other material to kind of seep and soak into the crystal structure at the surface. And so it causes burned facets. So the stones do have to be refaceted, which is the giveaway for detecting this, because then we can actually see color concentrations through transmitted light, meaning the light's coming up through the stone. We can see color concentrations along facet junctions. So it looks like somebody's like
outlining them.
outlining all of the facets. And
So is it just beryllium they're using to do that?
no,
or-
it depends on what they're kind of going after. But I know the other common one that they do this with is blue sapphire, especially if they have one that has either faint color or a lot of color zoning. Maybe you have a lot of blue on one end, and then it's almost colorless in spots and stuff like that, and they're trying to even out the tone. The lattice diffusion kind of does that really well. They, for the most part, are fairly easy to detect. There are some that are a little bit more difficult, especially if they get that diffusion further into the stone and they're not actually faceting or polishing through that layer. In which case you actually have to submerge the stone in a liquid,
high RI liquid.
a high RI liquid, to almost give you what looks like a cross section of the stone in order to detect it. But it's also something, this is another treatment that has to be disclosed upon sale. Luckily, this isn't as common as some of these other ones.
I would say
I don't know
the
that we've
only,
seen a
the
lot
on-
of it
The
here.
only thing would be is I've heard that most of the orange sapphire is diffused.
Mm.
And I'm not sure why that is. But the other problem gets to be is most people don't ever
They're not
sit-
looking for that anyway.
or asking for it or whatever. So
Yeah. So it's just a few of those things that you guys need to kind of watch out for, especially if you're in the market for diamond, ruby, or sapphire, because these are fairly common things that are going on in the trade that you don't necessarily always hear about. And it's something that can be detected and can be separated from natural or from other types of treatments and stuff like that are maybe a little bit more permanent, or maybe hold the value a little bit better. Especially when it comes to the ruby, you don't want the glass-filled ruby. Just no, not even costume. It's just no. So be sure that whenever you are making a purchase, that you're buying from somebody you know and trust. somebody that is knowledgeable about what it is that they're selling, and that even their suppliers that they're getting their stuff from are reputable. This can sometimes be a little bit difficult, especially if you're buying online, because there's a lot of that stuff that can be hidden, especially if it's being sold overseas and shipped into the country. And that's something we kind of
and then
talked about last week.
I guess the other thing is I don't remember now which one we were checking out, but in the original description of the piece, they never did say that it was or wasn't. We had to kind of dig to find out that it was actually, I think it was maybe the coated CZ, because we had to, they ended up disclosing what it was, but it was like
you're talking about the one our customer brought in?
Yeah, way down in the fine print before you could actually find out what it was.
Well, it wasn't even in the fine print. It, like we kind of discussed last week, it was a matter of repeatedly calling them before they finally basically fessed up to, we sold it as
thinking there was
lab
something,
grown, but
something that somebody brought in, and we were trying to figure out why, and maybe they called it in and told us what they were looking at or something. I just remember we had to dig past that first page of description to, it was eventually disclosed, but I think you got to disclose it a little faster than that, or a little better than that.
By law, these actually have to be disclosed openly. It can't be something that's just like hidden and buried in fine print. So with all of these stones, this has to be something that's done and said and mentioned obviously and up front, and it can't be just kind of buried in the paperwork kind of thing. Unfortunately, there are some out there that are doing that. Like I said, it's really, really prominent online.
Especially, I guess, if it's like an international dealer.
Yeah. With the ones we were talking about last week, the diamond-coated CZs that are being sold as natural diamond, those are all coming from China. However, there are a few companies here in the United States that are selling this, and they're burying the description. They are disclosing it, whereas the other companies aren't, but you have to really dig, and you have to want to know what it is.
Well, it was a little bit like a few years ago, there was a company that was selling CZ, but they were calling it something else.
Yeah.
Sounded like it was better than CZ, but it was actually CZ.
Yeah.
I don't remember now what the name was. But.
Yeah. It's a weird world out there with some of this stuff, but that's why we're here. We're here to help differentiate that stuff and make sure that you guys are actually getting what you're paying for. Like I said, in order to be positive that you're getting exactly what you're paying for and what you're being told you're buying, make sure and buy from somebody that's reputable and also has the education and background to know what it is that they're selling and deals with only reputable suppliers. That's really the only way to make sure that you're going to get what it is that you're expecting to purchase. And that's why we do these videos, so you guys have a little bit more knowledge of what to look for and what questions to ask whenever you're buying. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to give us a call. We are here at Suzanne's, and our number is 361-991-7565. You can always visit us online at suzannes-jewelers.com, right here on Facebook, and check out our Instagram page. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with some of your friends, and then you can go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. So we thank you guys for joining us, and as always, we will see you guys next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.